Okay, everybody. Hello and welcome. Um, so for today's podcast, we have Meet. He specializes in 3D printing. Basically, everything that goes into the 3D printing world, from smaller scale to the biggest scale. Um, so yeah, this podcast is all about how one can get into 3D printing, what it's about. We dive into Meet's life. Um, he really talented guy. He came as a student in from India to USA, and then now he's in Canada. So his whole journey, and then we'll see if we can learn a thing or two. Oh yeah, and we have Conor McGregor with us, the double champ. So yeah,
Yeah,
welcome to the podcast.
absolutely.
We're gonna be talking today. This is my brother, my cousin. Meet Trivedi. Welcome to the podcast again.
Thank you.
We can just go ahead and dive in. I guess I can go and start with congratulating you for opening your YouTube channel,
Thank you so
and
much.
I hope you and we both we just grow, and when we go far along with our big brother
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
motivated us, right, in the first place to
Yeah.
start this. So how's the YouTube channel going? What is the YouTube channel about?
So YouTube channel is mainly about making stuff, creating stuff. Um, I just got a 3D printer, so that's what I'm using to make stuff. But that's not the only way, right? So the goal is to share designs, share creativity, share things with other people, and also the process that I use to do make all those stuff. So that's the
Yeah,
main goal.
it's you've been doing this for a while. You've been doing 3D printing for a while, and we're gonna be talking a lot about it because we need a lot of information, and then maybe our viewers can learn a thing or two, and then maybe
Mm,
they can, if somebody wants to start a path
yeah.
on 3D printing and
Hmm.
making a career, and we can sort of talk all about that afterwards.
Sure.
But I want to talk about the YouTube channel and
Right.
how the process kind of works for you right now.
Hmm.
What motivated you to start a YouTube channel? I know, I mean, the first motivation for both of us was our big
Cousin.
brother,
Yeah.
was our cousin brother, who's awesome, very smart.
Absolutely.
He has his own YouTube channel, and at some point, I'm gonna invite him as a guest, and then we're gonna have an awesome conversation. But he was kind of the motivation for both of us to
Yeah.
start the YouTube channel. So that I know that was already as it is,
Yeah.
but it's a big step to get into it and
Yes.
to start creating stuff and uploading videos online and stuff.
Yep.
At what point did you think that, along with your job and stuff, you should maybe
Hmm.
spend your time on things like this?
Absolutely. So I have been doing 3D design for almost like 10 years now since my undergrad. I did mechanical engineering. So I know how to make designs, and since I started working from like past 5 6 years, I have been working on actual products, like designing products and then making sure that they go to market, and then you can actually have them in your hand. For example, make like a small screw, for example. Let's say, how do you
Screwdriver or screw? Like,
screw itself,
oh,
like,
right.
right? So imagine, I mean, everyone of us have used a screw. We've used to put on paintings on the wall and all that, right? But how is it designed? Like, what's the engineering behind it? Basically, that's one example. So I have been doing this for a long time, and the goal is to share that knowledge, the fun in doing that with everyone, and that's the main motivation to start a channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that going for you so far?
So far, it's going good. I have been doing this for like a month now, which is not too long of a time, month or 2 months. I think I started in November since I got my 3D printer. It's going good. I have done a few videos, and each time I try to make sure that I design or at least show my work and experience and just the process to make sure that people understand, and also it's interesting. So that's the main goal. Yeah.
So everything is designing on the software,
Yes.
and then you put everything inside you, whatever you learned,
Yes.
and then the outcome is in the printer itself.
Correct.
Did you have to spend money on buying the printer and everything? Or did you already have it? Like how?
So yes, I did spend some money. I did some research on what is like the best printer in market for a person who is using it at home. There's like a huge range, right? From very small printers to like industry size printers, right? So I wanted something which fits my environment, which is not very expensive, of course, because I'm still working professional. So I have to make sure that I don't put like a lot of extra money in things, just hobbies. But yeah, the goal is not leave this thing as a hobby, but also evolve it into like some sort of a business.
Right.
So yeah, I did buy my printer.
Yeah.
I have subscriptions to the software, like designing software and all. And yeah, knowledge.
That's good. So YouTube, right? Like you said, you kind of also want to maybe in the long run, in the future, at some point, maybe have a business of your own, maybe a company of your own, or whatever. But right now, um, you could have also like volunteered in big companies that does 3D things. I guess I don't know how it works because usually
Hmm.
we work in IT, so I can only guess and I can come from that perspective.
Right.
So why did you not think of maybe like because you're a working professional, so you're
Hmm.
working the entire day and
Yes.
the whole day, and then you get the evenings free, weekends free, kind of.
Yep.
So how did you not like? Why only YouTube? Because YouTube does not start paying you right away,
Nope.
and then you, I think in the beginning you have to just make sure that you put things out there, you put your knowledge out there, and then kind of navigate towards where you want to take
Hmm.
it. But then why not like a part-time like an extra job or volunteer on a bigger company just so you can see how 3D printing in a
Yes.
bigger space works?
Right. So that's a good
Why
question.
YouTube? Yeah, I mean that's what I want. Yeah.
Right. So the main reason for YouTube is not to make money. I'm not into YouTube for money, at least for now, because I didn't start my channel because of that. I was motivated by our cousin Parth, but also I was motivated um, by trying not to find what I wanted to see on YouTube, and then to fill that void is the main purpose of starting this channel. If I work at a bigger company, the products or the things that they want to make is going to be for that company or for the customers they have. But this thing, I do it for myself. Like it,
Right.
like the most recent design that I made was for myself, was for my wife, and also to show other people that there's endless things that you can do. It's not only just basic design that people see nowadays, right? Like if you go to, for example, IKEA, you'll see a lot of stuff.
Right.
But what if you want to stand out from that? So that's the whole purpose, like designing something for yourself, something that you envision. Um, that's the channel. So Meet works.
Meatworks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to that channel, Meatworks. Please subscribe. Um, Now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit,
Sure.
and then we're gonna um, start talking. I mean, of course, you can join me, and if you feel like you have to, you're remembering something that you want to
Yeah.
talk about in YouTube realms. But since we're already on the topic of 3D printing,
Hmm.
I kind of want to get more information on how that works, how that field is, because I'm sure
Sure.
there's a lot of viewers
Hmm.
who is new to the concept.
Yeah.
Maybe this concept is newer in its own,
Yep.
because 3D printing, it just kind of sounds a little funny to the people who has not heard it.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna go to very very basics. What is 3D printing?
Okay. So we know printing, right? We have like a document, we print it out. It's a 2D page, right? It's
So
two
it's a
dimensional.
page, you type something on, if it's a Word file or something, and
It's,
then
yeah.
you hit print, and it goes to a physical printer, and then the print comes out.
Right? So
Right?
that's
Yeah.
normal printing. But then if you want to 3D print something, for example, let's say if you want to print this cup, how do you print it? So 3D printing, how it works is it makes this entire cup layer by layer. There's different materials that you can use. Mainly it's either going to be metal or it's going to be plastic, some sort of plastic.
Is it all one material, or you can use different
Different
materials?
materials. Each printer has a set of materials that you can use on it. So the printer that I got usually prints rubber and plastic. um,
Okay.
the rubber that it is actually a plastic, but it's just flexible, so that's why I just call it rubber in layman's term. But um, yeah, so each printer has like different materials that you can use on it. You can use stainless steel, you can use aluminum, you can use multiple different types of metals, but also there's plastic printers are very cheap, but metal printers are like crazy expensive, and mostly huge industries and aerospace and pharmaceutical industries use that.
So it's not just the when you say plastic printers and metal printers, it's
Yes.
not the printers themselves, it's the material that's used within those printers, right? Is that what
Correct.
you mean?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, based on the material, the printer is also different. Like the metal printers are can be as big as this room, but the plastic printers can be as big as this small table. So there's different sizes as well. Yeah. The yeah.
So the one that you have,
Yes.
is it a mid-size one, or
So I would call it a small printer. Not really a small printer, but like I would say small to medium size.
how do you define them? How does a person, how do I know which one's a small, like, because I don't, like, we don't know, right?
Right.
If I see a
So
printer, how do I know if that's for business or for personal use? Or
right. So the printer size is defined by the print volume, how much volume it can print. Like if you want to print a page, like an A4 size page, you have a regular printer, right? But if you want to print like a huge poster, then there's different size of printers on
Mhm.
paper. Same thing goes for a 3D printer. Like if you want to build a small volume, then you'll probably go for a small resin printer, for example. But if you want to print probably, let's say this table, you probably need like a large volume, right? Because
Mm.
the size of the product is large. So you need a
Mm.
slightly larger printer. So the one that I have is 10 cubic inch, which is roughly this volume, right?
Right.
And that's a typical small to medium size printer range in terms of volume.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was amazing the products that you showed us.
Mm.
Thank you for giving us a gift of the little lamp.
Yeah.
So how that product? Can you please explain the gift that you give us?
Sure. So
Like,
what I
explain the description of the whole thing,
all right.
please.
So it started with an idea. What I wanted to do was I wanted to make a lamp, but also something that is not available in stores, right? So what I did was I started with a thought, then I put it on like a paper. I sketched like how it should look and what all elements should go in there, and then I started doing some 3D modeling on the software. I use SolidWorks. It's one of the industry standard 3D modeling software. I did that and then I started printing. I put those 3D modeling files into my printer. I selected different materials, different colors that I wanted, and then I printed that and then assembled everything. Once the assembly was done, I obviously got the wire, the bulb, everything from stores, and then I put everything together, and that's how the lamp was created.
Yeah. So it was very unique for me to see the whole thing put together in place, and it was fascinating for me to think of to think that this product has been built in a home.
Yes.
Because usually, like, if you see lamps and stuff, and it's like, if it's a bulb lamp, or, like, of course, there's big, and there's all those huge lamps that you can get online or wherever, but like, something that you printed at your home, so you can
Yes.
basically say you printed a lamp,
Yes.
which works. So it's
Yes.
not just a piece
Yep.
that you put for showpiece.
Yeah.
um there's actually one more thing that's in your background that you also,
Yes.
is this also, well, there you go. So same thing, one more lamp.
So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this entire lamp is actually 3D printed. The thing that is bought in this lamp is the bulb and the wire. This base, the plate on which the bulb mounts, everything is 3D printed. This lampshade, everything is 3D printed. And this is completely printed in white, but there's like different colors that I use. I just like to make it look minimal, but also look classy. So
Yeah, it's the creativity too, right? You have to also
yeah,
think on how it works. But I think for you at this point is obviously the experience. This
correct.
is a lot of years of doing again and again, and
Yes.
and that's how you got into it.
Yeah.
So now, kind of, we know what 3D printing is, and how I want to talk about, excuse me, how the industry and everything works on a bigger pace. But
Yes.
we can talk about that after. For now, I want to ask, if there's somebody who want to get started into 3D printing,
Hmm.
or who wants to get knowledge. How it works in IT is, you can always go to YouTube videos, and you can always search up online, and you can find those free courses,
Right.
and then you can at least start learning. You can at least
Yeah.
start, like, the beginning course, like the first 2 hours, 20 hours, 10 hours,
Right.
and then you learn, and then you go from there, and then you
Hmm.
kind of do your own path on what you want to do. You do deeper. I'm guessing it's the same thing in 3D printing as well. How does one get into it? Like, if somebody wants to start, like
Right.
like as a profession, or as a curiosity, as a student, if somebody wants to learn, how can
Yeah.
they get into it?
So 3D printing, there's two ways you can do that. One I prefer. The other one, it's not that I don't like, but I would rather not prefer it. So the first one I'll say is the one that I don't prefer, is you get a 3D printer. There's abundance of 3D models available online of whichever you like. There's so many websites there where people upload like a bunch of stuff that they have made, and then you can download that and then just put it on your 3D printer, which is a very simple way.
Okay, so when you download all those models, is there a software that you can run on, and is it only one software that you can run on, or is there multiple softwares that you can use to at least play with?
So when you get a 3D printer, you actually get a software for that, just for that 3D printer, right?
For somebody who wants to begin learning, they're not going to invest money.
Correct.
If I just want to see how it is,
Correct.
what software works, and if I want to see somebody do it, what are the resources that I can go to?
Right. So those all those 3D models you can actually view online on those websites where they are available in 3D.
Oh,
So
okay.
you don't have to like get the software. But if you want to print for yourself, then you'll have to either get a software or get the printer, and then the software that comes with printer, you can use that to just view your files and select different materials, select different colors, for example, and then you can print it on your printer.
Right. So you prefer,
I don't
if
prefer
somebody
this.
wants to, you don't prefer that
I
method,
don't prefer this.
the buying the printer and
Printer,
then
getting
learning that way.
files.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's so. What's the other way?
So yeah, my preferred way is to learn designing, design your own models, and then print it. If you have a printer, great. If you don't have, you can just take your designs and ask someone else to print it if they have. For example, if you have some design, you have made something, and if you ask me, I can print it for you because I have the printer, right? But yeah, so there's two ways you can get into 3D printing. One is you get a printer, get files from online from somebody else who has made them, and then print it, and then you can sell it, or I don't know, keep decorate your house or something.
Right.
But the one that I really prefer is to design something useful for yourself, for your
Yeah.
family, for your friends, and then print it yourself. You can also share those designs with other people if they want. But yeah, like something that have that you've like put your effort into, not just hit print and then it starts printing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you learn the design stuff of it. You want to get your hands dirty so you can start
Correct.
making mistakes and learn that way.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. And
Yes.
so, what's the software that somebody can use? If is it a free? Like, what's the resources?
So yeah, like I mentioned, I use SolidWorks. It's a 3D designing software mainly used for mechanical design, but also used for like a bunch of other stuff. There's also free software that people can use. It's called Autodesk Fusion 360. Um, it's available for free. I think it's available for 1 year, but I think you can renew it. I'll have to check because I haven't used it in a long time. But that's a free software that like a lot of people can use. And good thing is that it is much easier to understand. It's user friendly. So
Oh,
that's really good software to learn designing.
right. So
Yeah.
of course, if you're trying to get into 3D printing, get a computer laptop and then start learning designing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
then, um,
There's courses
but
available.
there you go. So that's what
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
How can you start learning designing?
Yes. So YouTube is a really nice resource for that. But you'll obviously see things that people have designed, not something that what you want. There it might not be there. So the best way to start is learn the basics from YouTube. There's also like huge, like hours and hours long courses on YouTube, Udemy. There's also like a bunch of other websites, but YouTube is, I think it works. Um, get to know the basics, and then if you have the basics, you can make whatever you want, not whatever other people have made. So yeah,
Right.
very good source
So
of.
start checking out those resources
Yeah.
online to see what people have built or are building, and
Yep.
then not just watch it. Just don't you cannot watch workout videos for months and then expect to lose weight. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that. You have to go and actually work out, and you have
Yep.
to you have to actually sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
Same thing goes, I guess, in here, and same concept goes for pretty much anything.
Anything. Yeah.
The best way to learn would be to get into it and then to
Doing
just
it.
start. Let's
Yeah.
just do it. Just start
Doing it.
doing it. Usually, I think the problem with what I've seen, at least in IT, is that they people want to, and they also the only thing is that they don't know the path, so they don't know, they want to, they know they want
Right.
to, but they don't know what do they want to. So like at some point there's always questions of, how do I take my like tech journey or a work journey
Right.
further, and all that. So I guess, but it's the same thing, you have to start somewhere and at
Correct.
least start doing it, and then
Yeah.
then you can get at a point
Yep.
where, and obviously Meet's channel is there, so you can always put in comments, ask him questions. There's no harm in asking questions, and
Absolutely.
you can always, and the other best way to learn is to help out, so you can always
Exactly.
help
Yeah.
out, and just gather around people who are like that, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
What made you get into 3D printing? How did you get into it?
So my very first internship, actually, not very first, but very first internship in US, was in a biotech company.
Right.
What they did was they made like really tiny heart pumps that actually go into your heart if your heart is not functioning. It was a
Hmm.
biotech company, very advanced, very innovative, and it actually helped a lot of people like recover from heart diseases. So while I was interning in that company, I was introduced to 3D printing, and some of my projects, which I was doing in that internship, required like a lot of 3D printing and 3D designing for 3D printing. So that's how I got interested in it, and then I just found out like capabilities of 3D printing, and I was like, okay, I need to do something in the future about this.
Right. So
Yeah,
you just kind of saw it, and you got into it. How
definitely.
do you feel about it now? Now that you know about 3D printing, are you at a point you think where, you think you have enough knowledge in this field where you just have to keep on working and then create more, or do you think you're at a point where there's still probably way more to learn, and then you can probably still, obviously there's always things to learn,
Yes.
so I'm not saying in terms of if you learn, but I'm saying in perspective of knowledge, do you think you were there yet, or?
I think I am far enough where I can share some experiences and make sure that the people who are starting from the bottom, they have like a good head start. That's where I am right now. But there's so much to learn. Like having 10 years of designing experience still doesn't ensure that each design that I make is going to work. And that's the most challenging part. Like you have something in your mind, you have your experience, you have dealt with like a bunch of products that you've done in the past, but it doesn't make sure that the next product that you're going to do is going to work in the very first time, which is like I think it works same with the code, right? If somebody's
Yeah,
writing code, they have done it for like 20 years, but if they write a code and it might not work for the first time, right? Because
yeah.
there's something that's challenging. Same thing goes in designing as well.
Right, right. So do you think, how do you my question is, how do you manage time, how do you manage doing your everyday routine,
Right.
working, and then your daily life,
Yeah.
and at the same time this?
So yeah, I work mostly remote right now, at least from past I think almost 1 year. I'm working remote. I try to at least I don't try to work on my 3D printing or my YouTube channel every day, but I at least try for 5 to 6 hours a week. I don't break it down into day. I just break it down into weeks because some it might be possible that some days I don't have enough time, but some days I do have enough time. So I just try to make sure that within a week I at least spend like 5 to 6 hours apart from my work. Um, and then yeah, that's basically how I try to manage weekly
Nice.
breakdown.
Yeah, we were on.
Yeah.
That's good. I guess I wanted to know more about 3D printing, because when I saw like the models, and when I saw the models online and how people work and stuff,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be very very honest. Usually, like me, and I think there's more people like me who usually just sees those things as, I don't want to be disrespectful, but at some point you still think that these things are like little toys where you can play with them and such,
Yes.
right? How does one change their mentality? So do you have any examples, or because I know you probably have a lot of your research,
Hmm.
so like do you know any big companies who are like, because you told me about the how you got into it, so the
Yes.
company who was selling hard product, and
Yes.
so seeing that product do something for like lively beings,
Yes.
helping livelihood, or helping humans with their day to day, or
Yeah.
even solving a problem for human beings.
Hmm.
right? That's a big transition for me on, because even if I see the lamp, or it takes hard work. For
Yes,
me, I still see it
I
as a
know.
thing which is like plastic toy
Yeah,
ish, right? How do you like how does the industry work on a bigger perspective?
right. So yes, 3D printing, like a lot of people see, like if like for example, like you said, the lamp, right? You can go and buy this lamp in IKEA for like $25 or something, let's say.
Right.
Um, the thing is that most of the products that are made in huge quantities, they are not 3D printed. They are usually
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
either injection molded, like it's another manufacturing method industry wide. But 3D printing is something that you cannot do by conventional manufacturing methods like machining. You cannot do on what you can do with 3D printing. Injection molding, you cannot do what you can do with 3D printing. So it's a whole different industry. It's usually used where like 3D printing is usually used where you need very complex shapes, geometries, which are impossible to achieve um, in other conventional manufacturing techniques, you know. So for example, let's say if I want to um, make make a cube, and it should have like some sort of a hole inside, but you cannot see it from the outside, it's just in there, right? Just giving you an example.
Right. Yeah. Like
It's
a full cube that looks
full cube
like a
which,
cube from the
yeah,
outside.
from the outside, but inside there's a whole,
Yeah. It's hollow.
like hollow, yeah. You cannot make that on like a metal machining
Hmm.
um, machine, right? Like a
Yeah. Yeah.
CNC
Yeah.
machine or something. You cannot do that on injection molded or something like that, but it's possible on 3D printing. So yeah, it's a completely different technique. So now why you would want to make something like that, it's on you. But there's like a lot of biotech industries, space industries, for example. SpaceX uses a bunch of 3D printing on their engines and stuff. I'm not sure exactly what, but they do use. There's the company that I work. We do chemical separation, which is mostly used for pharmaceutical industries. We use 3D printing in our products, so it won't be like common for like another person walking down the street, but it's very like popular and very useful in industries basically when you want to make something which is not possible by conventional methods.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's not for, it might not be. So let me put my thoughts together for a second.
sure.
So it's not like where it's a big company where you're making things out of 3D printers, but it could be where there's already big things where you might need smaller tools, smaller parts,
Yeah,
which might help those big machineries solve.
definitely.
So complex machines are already complex as it is, but maybe 3D printing helps those machines in a way where, so it solves problems for those machines
Yes.
which the machinery or the mechanical engineering team or whatever, that cannot
Yeah.
be solved, or it's hard for them to solve.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. But does it, is it not expensive to get the 3D stuff? Like, would it not be expensive for a bigger company to just outsource, like making, let's say, the hollow cube? um
So that's what usually they do. There's big companies that make 3D printers. The companies itself make 3D printers, and then they also get the files from, you know, different companies, and if they want to print on their machines basically. But yeah, it is very expensive. But
uh,
the thing is, when something is 3D printed, it's one part instead of, you know, like for example, our phone, it's made of like a bunch of assemblies. There's screen, there's back glass, there's the frame, there's inside components. That's an assembly. But what if you want to make something which is just one part? It's going to be much more stronger. It's going to have much more consistent um, uh, density, like a bunch of technical things which goes into making sure that the part is really strong and it's totally worth the expense. I know it's like if you want to make some part in plastic and if you want to make some part in metal, same part, it's going to be like 20 times expensive in metal compared to plastic. But it's
uh,
worth it because it's required. There's no other way right now.
yeah, that's right. And then I think at some point, eventually, it's also gonna, because at maybe like the 3D printing as a whole is on like a version 1 or maybe version 3 right now, but things are gonna get maybe a little more cheaper
Cheaper,
as the
yes.
industry is more popular, and as
Yeah.
it's more useful.
Yep.
I guess there's gonna be more innovations,
Absolutely.
and the things are gonna be. So I think, do you think the field is still growing and there's a lot of opportunities for the viewers? So like
Yes. So, very good question actually. So, the 3D printing is still fairly new industry, but it has evolved so much in, like, let's say past decade, I would say. The same printer that I have, I got it for around 15 to $1,600. I don't know the exact with taxes and all, but yeah, something around that range. If I wanted to get the same printer, like let's say 6 years ago, it would have cost me like $5,000. So there is a huge progress. There's innovation. The printers are much more faster. The raw material
Yeah.
is much more cheaper. The software that it comes with is much more advanced. So there's a lot of advancement in the technology and the 3D printing industry itself. So it's easier for people to learn now. People to learn,
Hmm.
people to explore. So you'll see a lot of people who have a 3D printer in their home, even if they don't want to do a business, but they'll still have it because they like to make stuff from like for themselves. You know.
Yeah, see, so this reminds me. So my wife actually, when she was working in Toronto,
Yeah.
she used to work in an eye clinic, and she had all those customers who would come for their eye checkup and
Right.
all those stuff. And then she had a patient who would normally who was a regular patient who would
Mm-hmm.
come to her, like the clinic she used to work in.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy, he had a 3D printer at his house.
Right.
Funny story was, he used to build those. So I guess how it is in big malls, big marts, so like Walmart and all those big grocery stores and superstores. There's trolleys, so you drag those trolleys with you. But sometimes not the trolleys are free, so you cannot just carry a trolley for those in those stores. For safety reasons or for multiple reasons, you have to put a coin in. So you
Yes.
deposit, excuse me, you deposit maybe $1, maybe like 25 cents,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the cart and depending on. But sometimes some stores might take $1. Some of the other superstores might take 25 cents.
Mm.
Sorry, my point is, so this guy make used to make these this long and like this thin tiny little plastic pieces,
Yeah.
which would, so there's different size of pieces, right? 25 cents, $1,
One
and then
dollar.
50, so like three different sizes of pieces.
Yeah.
So he would give you like a little keychain of all three sizes.
Mm.
So anytime you want to go to the grocery store, you
Just
just
use that.
insert that, you just use that piece of plastic. You don't have to worry about the coins,
Yeah.
because a lot of times you forget taking the coin out of your pocket, out of your car,
Mm.
and you don't have a trolley. In the entire store, you're just walking with a basket,
Bunch of
bunch full of
stuff.
things with a
Yeah.
basket, or everything in your hands. So that's
Yeah.
not convenient. But then I don't think he was doing it as a business, but I'm not too sure if he was. What I know was he gave one of those to us, and then it
Yeah.
was super helpful. So yes, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
people has it for fun too.
Yeah. People have it for fun. They can make stuff for their friends, for their family. They can make, for example, they can make a coaster out of 3D. Where
Yeah,
make a coaster of your name, make a
yeah,
coaster of
yeah,
your, I don't know, your college logo or something, whatever, you know.
yeah.
So there's a bunch of stuff you can do with that.
Now talking about the same topic, how does one get a career into 3D printing?
Uh, yes, good question. um, so career into 3D printing is definitely not easy as it was a few years ago while the industry was very brand new. Because right now, since the printers are cheaper, it's more accessible to like common people. There's a lot of small businesses that have started, you know, like for example, if I want to design something and I can sell it online, right? I can do that. I just need to get a printer, invest some money, some time. I don't even need to learn designing. I don't even need to do any of that. I can get files online, license them online, and then start a business. But just because it is so easy, a lot of people are doing. So competition is very high right now. So
Yeah.
you have to stand out, and
Hmm.
hence we go back to my first
Point.
point, which
Yeah.
was learn designing yourself. Design something unique that is also useful and
Mhm.
which is not available in market. You know, so
Yeah.
you can stand out in public.
It might also be a little hard for you to think of things that are like competitive and stuff. But I guess what I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I guess what you want to do is have you want to learn and you want to have skills, which, so you also want to make a product. You also want to look and see what's out there in the market, and what you can create at least close to your market,
Yes.
which is not that much popular. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that when you when you're in those competition, like I guess what you want to do is you want to learn making the product, and then you also want to gain skills which can make you stand out. So it
Yes.
doesn't really, I think, I don't think it doesn't have to be just the product specific. Because how many unique product are you going to make now? Like there's probably already whatever you're thinking, it's
It's
probably
going to be
already
out
out
there.
there.
Yes.
And I don't think you can, like, I think legally, like if you cannot like make your own patent and stuff. I don't know how that thing works.
Hmm.
But like it's hard to make a product that's really unique in the market.
Yes.
But what you can do instead, I guess, is to collect set of skills, create set of skills, which you can then develop. So just like you, I can see a product that's in front of me right now, which is, I'm gonna try and see if I can put that video of, or I can just put the link of you,
Hmm.
because you already put that product out
Yeah.
in your video. That product is not as much unique in India's market,
Correct.
because in Indian market the tiffin boxes, the way that you have made,
Yeah.
it's pretty common,
Hmm.
but nobody uses it here like this.
Right.
So it's really unique in this
Yes.
market. So
Yes.
it's unique for
Yes.
sure. But let's say for you it was a benefit because you have an eye on both the markets, Indian market
Hmm.
and like a North American market.
Yes.
So you had that benefit because we're born there. But for somebody who does not have that benefit, I
Yeah.
guess for them, you can start learning. You don't have to worry about creating a unique product, but you
Right.
can learn skills. So
Correct.
make yourself unique in a way
Correct.
where people might like you, like
Yes.
in a way where your skills,
Yeah.
right? So people might like your skills.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
So I think I agree with that. It's important to make sure that you stand out, and then whatever you make, even though if it's like, let's say the one that I made is very popular in our country, everyone, I mean,
Yeah.
each small child or I don't know 80 years old person is going to know about that, right? But how you portray it to other people is very important. I didn't make that tiffin box, but I didn't use it as a tiffin, right? I use it to store stuff. It's a storage container for me, right? So you
Yeah.
have to so yeah, a big role is also marketing, like how you market your product.
Yeah.
Like I know it's anything. For example, this lamp, I am sure that there's a lot of sellers or business owners online who make this lamp, but how is yours different, right?
Hmm.
There's only like a range of stuff that you can actually make or think about or design or innovate, right? But how do you make something which is already in there but also make sure that it has a uniqueness, or just something which will stand out basically, even though it's very popular.
It doesn't have to be unique, but it has to be
Stand
creative.
out, yes, and it has
Creative.
to create be creative, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Cool. How do you think? What do you think about? I just recalled I have something in my notes. How do you feel about the future of 3D printing? We have this conversation has taken. We have talked a lot about 3D printing, but just because I have never had a person who is experienced, who has knowledge in 3D printing,
Hmm.
so that's kind of why I'm stretching this point.
Sure.
I feel like the viewers can get more information out of this,
Yeah.
and it's a unique information. So first of all, thank you for that.
Of course.
And so yeah, sorry, please continue. What do you think?
I think, yeah, 3D printing is definitely a growing industry. It's
Yeah.
gonna keep growing because it solves problems that we weren't able to solve 20 years ago. Like there
Hmm.
was nothing that could solve certain problems, and now since we are so much tech and things dependent, let's put it that way, this industry is going nowhere. Even if you won't see 3D prints in person in life ever, for example, but the products that you see might have something where a 3D printed something was used to make them, for example.
Hmm.
Like let's say, for example, we have our iPhones or any phones, right?
Yeah.
Those, I'll just throw something out there, that you might not see something which is in that phone which might be 3D printed, but while that phone was being manufactured, there was something where you had to hold a phone in certain way to test it. For example, a drop test, or I don't know, you have to touch the screen like 50,000 times to make sure that the screen doesn't break, even if you have touched it 50,000 times. The holder that was holding that phone for that long is probably 3D printed. So you might not have
Hmm.
direct contact with 3D printing, but it's still there. It's gonna be there. I don't think it's gonna go away, and it's growing.
Yeah, like those little things that you use to test out the the
Yeah,
mouse clickers.
correct.
You know, those like because a lot of like these big companies who produces mic and keyboards, they're like they say these many clicks the
Yes.
mouse does, or these many clicks the keyboard does. So
Yeah.
maybe, right, yeah, that's very interesting to me.
Yep.
But yeah, this is good information. I know a lot about 3D printer now.
Yeah.
If there's anything that you think we should know we're missing, then and then otherwise we can move on to the next topic, which is, you just mentioned that you currently work in a biomedical,
So in a chemical equipment manufacturing company,
right.
yeah, it's a startup.
It's a startup company, but you live in Canada and you work in the States.
Yes.
You came from India to US
Yes.
as a student.
Mm-hmm.
You worked there for a little bit. You had your Did you study there? Because we're gonna talk more about your journey to the
Sure.
States,
Yeah.
for sure. But and then did you study? You studied and then you worked there, and
Yes.
then you came to Canada. That's kind of how it was.
Yes.
You still work in the same company.
Correct.
So, but then you also moved to Canada. My question is, how does if you were already working in the States and then you came to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
but for somebody to, let's say, who's working in Canada and who wants to apply for jobs, so I don't know if you would know about this more.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to know is, how does the taxation and the salary portion of it work? I've always wondered,
Right.
because if I'm working here and if but I'm also working in Canada, so my living country is here, but maybe if I'm working to US,
Mm-hmm.
um, the country or the city, the province, I think it's called states there, so the state tax comes on it. So I don't know what kind of tax do you have to pay. How does the taxation work?
Right. So while I was working in US, I used to pay same like here. I used to pay state and then federal taxes. Like here we do
Right.
provincial and federal, right?
Yeah.
On income. But since I moved to Canada, the way that right now my taxation works is I pay a certain percentage and I set it for myself. You can ask your company to do it for you, but I prefer to do it myself so that I have some control on how much I'm paying and all that.
What do you mean by, do you mean tax?
Yes. So
But
what I do is,
right.
yeah, let me explain it like
Okay.
slightly
Yes,
better.
please. Yeah.
um, Whenever I get paid, before that I said, okay, I'm going to pay 20% in taxes. It's going to be withheld from my paycheck, which are going to be paid in taxes. And 20% might not be exact amount that I owe. It might be more, it might be less, but I just give 20%. And at the end of the year, what I do is I have all my paychecks, I have all my tax documents ready. In there I see that, okay, I have paid this amount of tax, this is my annual income, and now I'm going to file my taxes. If I owe something to the government, I'm gonna give it to the government. If I don't, then I'll probably get taxed. So I have to do some manual labor in this instead of just company deducting your taxes and then you getting the final paycheck. But in this way I have some control over my monthly statements, my monthly income.
Hmm.
And then I have ways in which I can actually invest and then save on taxes.
So, silly question. What government do you pay tax to? Do you pay to both of them?
No, so I pay for Canada.
Canada.
Yes, because this is my um,
This is where you're going to be spending it,
yes, this is my country of residence.
right?
So this is where I'm going to pay taxes. Now the catch is there's a lot of companies that are in US that are in Canada, but my company is just in US. So what they have done for me is, and which I'm very glad for, that they've done it, is they have partnered with a global HR company that
Mhm.
can take care of candidates who are not in the country
Right.
where the company is operating.
And then they probably
They'll take
have they probably
care of,
have people who are similar to you, who
correct,
are not in the country but
yes,
who work for the company,
which is in different
which is in a
country.
different
Yeah,
country, and then that's how kind of they manage.
yes,
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that it works like that.
yeah,
Because I've always wondered, if you work in US. I know from Canada to US it's easy to work, but I've always wondered, how does the taxation work? Because you're
yes,
making money from US and then from a company that's based off of US,
yes.
but then you're also spending it in Canada.
So I just pay
So,
here.
right,
Yeah.
okay,
Even so, yeah, the thing is, let's say if it's deducted in US,
yeah,
but you're not living there,
yeah.
right? So at the end of the year, you'll get all the tax back, even if though it's deducted. And there's also different forms that you can fill out within the US tax department where you can avoid paying taxes in US because since now you don't live there, you don't have to worry about taxes there.
So it's always about where you live and where you're going to
Country
be
of
spending that money.
residence,
Maybe
yes.
this was common knowledge, but not for me, so I just wanted to
No,
ask.
yeah, I think yeah, that's a good question because I didn't know about this either,
Yeah.
and I found out from like the global HR company which I deal with on almost daily basis.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I hope there's more people like us, and
Yeah.
and who we help.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's interesting. I wanted to ask more on like how your work is and stuff.
Sure.
So kind of tell us like what do you do for work? What's your title, and how did you get that job?
Yes. So I'm a senior mechanical design engineer. Like we did talked for 20 minutes about design.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of design, but that design is completely different from what I actually 3D print. The design that I do for my company is I design products that we sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Um, Most of it is mechanical design because the products that we sell are basically things come together and it's some sort of a mechanics, right? There's like a bunch of metals and plastics and all those things coming together and then performing some operations. So yeah, I do all the designing that goes into making a product, and the things that my company do is help other chemical manufacturing or pharmaceutical companies in the processes that they have. Like for example, there's a company that wants to make drugs or medicines or anything, let's say. So all those things are chemicals, right? And they have to go through certain process before they can actually become medicines, right? So in some of those processes, we provide equipment which can make those processes faster
Mhm.
and continuous, so you don't have to like wait on batch production or something like that. So the products that we supply is what
Mm.
I design.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So for the 3D to how does if you want to get into 3D printing,
Hmm.
does it have to be in the same realms as what you work with designing and mechanical ish, or let's say if somebody is in medical who has never touched the software or not touched but who doesn't normally work with the softwares and stuff, but if they're in medical, can they get into 3D printing?
So
I know this is a different question now, but this just came to my mind because
they can, they'll
okay,
have to just spend some time. I mean, I think everyone can learn this. I think everyone can learn anything. All you need to do is invest some time, right? So
right,
same goes on with this. If you invest some time on learning
yeah,
some concepts on like designing and how materials react when they are going under manufacturing processes and stuff like that. Like why, for example, why our bikes are made of metal and not plastic, right? Plastic's
right,
much cheaper, it's much lighter, but why metal? So yeah, you just need to have some knowledge on why we have to select certain materials, which is a very, like I gave a very small and simple answer, but it's not that simple. But yeah, you have to make sure that you know about materials. You have to know about designing processes. You have to know about the um, feasibility of manufacturing. There's like a bunch of stuff,
yeah.
but it's definitely possible. I think if you spend like some time, I think anyone can get familiar with it. I won't say that they'll be an expert, but they'll get familiar. They'll get a head start.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what my question was,
Yeah,
and I got my answer.
yeah,
I was wondering in terms of yes, anybody can learn anything, but like if I'm in IT, it's
yeah.
easy for me to learn something that's closer to IT ish, right? Rather than me learning something that interests me. Let's say if buildings and if like civil engineering or architecture interests me,
Yeah,
yes, I like it and I appreciate it and I might know a little more than anybody else because I like it, but that doesn't mean it's a field for me.
correct.
Now of course, if I spend enough time, if I have the proper motivation, discipline and everything, then if I want to, then
Yes,
no problem, I can, of course. That goes for anybody, I guess, not
right.
just me. But I wanted to ask what is the similar feel to it, and then what kind of people kind of would have a better idea or who would know 3D printing deeper.
Right.
That kind of answers me. So they need to know, like people who knows something about or some things about materials and things like that.
Yeah,
They would get into 3D printing much easier.
yeah. So yeah, I would say that that is important, like understanding about materials and manufacturing processes out there in the world, and that is really important, yes. But then, like, let's talk about the field, like people who are in different fields, uh, in terms of education, for example, from engineering, like mechanical engineering, a lot of people will be familiar with designing. From civil engineering, yes, a lot of people, architecture, interior design. Um, so yeah, people from all these different fields and education and background will be really familiar with like designing stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for example, if you compare with someone like you said, someone from medical, they might have slightly challenging path compared to people from the fields that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a learning curve. But yeah, I've done my bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering, so I am very familiar with all these things. So it was slightly easier for me because I already have my foundations.
Did you do your bachelor's and master's both in US?
No, I did my master's in US. I did my bachelor's in my hometown.
Right.
Yeah,
Um, so after how's masters in US? Because my wife has also studied
Hmm.
bachelor's in US, but
Right.
it's different. I know masters is really different. Was it expensive? Like how does if somebody wants to do masters from India, what's their path? Like what's the idea?
Right. So for me, it was I did my bachelor's. I had like 6 to 8 months of uh, time before I started my master's. Um, and yeah, like it was expensive. Obviously, I mean it's going to be much like exponentially expensive compared to what you
Yeah.
have in India. But then also it comes with its own benefits because you get a high paying job in United States.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the benefit? Because you can always do masters in India, but why did
Right.
you choose to go to America?
So yeah, my goal was to get my education in US, study, work there. My goal was to like continue living in US, but there were some things that didn't turn out as I wanted, so I decided to move here. And actually, I'm liking it here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's good. Canada is good.
Yep.
So now this is for the viewers. Okay, so now
Yeah.
people who goes to US as students,
Hmm.
um, talk to me about how master's life is in US, and is it the same thing as Canada where you get to work at the same time similarly, like simultaneously? Yeah, how does that work? How's because it's already expensive.
It is
So
expensive. Yes.
how do you like how does that work?
Right.
Working and studying at the same time because it's masters. You also need to spend time
On your
on your learning
assignments and
assignments and everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
So in US, there's one rule which is very um, challenging for like a lot of international students, which is you can only work on campus, and that too for maximum 20 hours a week. You cannot work more than that, and you cannot work off campus. You cannot work on cash. I mean, you can work, but I would not do that. I have never done that because it's very risky
yeah,
as it is. Um, getting an on-campus job is also very difficult because since like nobody can work out of campus, at least international students cannot work out of campus, all of them are applying for on-campus jobs.
yeah.
So it also gets expensive to manage your financial situation, finances basically. um, yeah, so the best thing to
Yeah,
do is make sure that you are prepared to spend some money. I mean,
yeah,
if you're not able to secure a job on campus.
yeah. What university did you go to? What city you were living in?
I was living in Boston, which is a very expensive city. I was living very close to downtown because my university was there. It's Northeastern University. Um, yeah, I lived in Boston for like almost 3 years
Yeah.
before I started working.
How was Boston?
Love it, man. Boston
Why?
was
Why do you love Boston?
Boston was a really nice city because it's filled with a lot of universities and young talent. Really
Mhm.
nice companies in Boston, in and around Boston. Um,
Are those what kind of companies are those usually? Everything,
any
everything is.
company, huge on biotech companies. It's a biotech hub of United States. But there's all the companies like big tech, Meta, Google, Amazon, all those
Yeah.
companies are there. But also like a really fun environment for like a lot of startups. Um, and yeah, just because that there's so many universities, world's best universities, Harvard, MIT, all those are in Boston. So there's like a lot of startups as well, like I said.
Right. So a lot of like young people, passionate
Young,
young people
passionate, yes,
trying to make it, and you can get all kind of opportunities to
absolutely.
learn
Lot
and
of talent.
lot,
Yeah,
lot of young talent too.
young
That's like
talent.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's how do you compare Toronto to Boston?
I think I mean, if I had an option, I
It's
would.
not really even Toronto. You live in Brampton.
Yeah.
You live in Vaughan. It's not
Yeah.
even Brampton. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I just moved. Yes, I think Boston is much more, I would say, I, I mean, personally, I would prefer Boston just because I lived there for like 6 years,
Yeah.
3 years, and then 2 years later. The other thing is that there's, like I said, there's like a lot of talent. There's a lot of huge student community there, which is always ready to um, like converse with you
Yeah.
about things that's going.
But place-wise and weather-wise, how do you think Toronto and Boston compare? Because I've never been to Boston.
Yeah,
I've seen Toronto, so
yeah. Boston is a coastal city.
right.
Toronto is also a coastal city, right? I mean, it's a lake, but it's still on
Yeah.
a lake coast, lakefront, right? The weather is slightly warmer on average
Yeah.
in Boston compared to Toronto. Um, the city is, I think, probably 1/5 of the size of Toronto. It's much tiny.
Oh,
Yeah,
the Boston is
Boston is, yeah,
tinier than Toronto.
like 1/5. It's like
Oh.
20% of Toronto, maybe smaller, I think.
Yeah, see, that's new information to me.
Yeah,
I always thought it was
Boston is like, the city
pretty.
is, yeah, really beautiful. You won't even like, the downtown is like 5 buildings. That's all.
Really?
Yeah, like 5 skyscrapers. There's like a bunch of other historic buildings, but like
Yeah.
5 to 10 tall buildings. That's all. Like in Toronto, Toronto's like New York, right? Like, so
Big
huge
buildings.
downtown, like huge buildings and stuff. But like Boston, it's like 10 buildings at the most, I would say.
What other cities have you been to?
I've been to like a bunch of cities in US. Like I've been to um, I've lived in Atlanta. Atlanta is beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, great culture down there.
Yeah,
Um,
Atlanta, a lot of rapper cultures.
yeah,
I like I've been always into
yeah,
rapping and hip hop and stuff. So
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, Southern hospitality, as they say. I love living there. Um, I've been to a bunch of different places. I've been to New Hampshire, which is like right north of Boston, Vermont. Like, I think around 15, 20 states I've covered. I haven't really been to Midwest because what's there? I don't know. But yeah, California. I've been to Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and yeah, a bunch of other stuff. Florida.
Yeah. So the mentality usually for people who live in Canada, Canadians and Americans, I would say, the mentality usually is um, comparatively, and this is only opinions, of course. Um, Canada is much safer in terms of the whole gun legal thing and everything. Um, but people over here, they don't know the lifestyle over there. We have lived in India as well,
Yeah.
so comparatively Canada is much more safer, right? I think kind of the same thing goes in America as well, depending on the area you live into. Um, but then again, here also is the same thing depending on the area you live into.
Yes.
Obviously you cannot compare Canada and US in crime wise. Um, but it's Canada is still, depending on the area, it's safer and some areas are not.
Right.
Is it the same thing in US? And how do you think it is for us in general? Like, let's say students, or
Yeah.
how do you think, how is it for the students right now overall?
Yeah. So I have properly lived in two cities mainly. One is Boston, and one is Atlanta.
Yeah.
So there was a huge difference. Boston, I felt, honestly, personally, I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about any city or something, or good about any city or something. I'm just saying that living in Boston, I was still comfortable just going out at night and all, even if it's like 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
2 in the morning,
Yeah.
12 midnight. I used to feel fine, but I cannot do that in Atlanta because just because it's warmer, a lot of things happen at night, and it's
Right.
just less safe compared to Boston, is what I feel. But like I said, like even in Boston, if you go to some places, it's going to be very scary and
Yeah.
it's going to be very dangerous. And same applies to Atlanta. If you go to certain places at midnight, it's going to be much safer. I mean, so
Yeah.
each city has its own
Plus and minus. Yeah.
yeah,
Positives and
own,
negatives.
yeah, own neighborhoods, which are not the best to go out alone or go out at midnight, especially if you're new to that city, at least. Yeah, if you don't know about anyone in that city.
Right.
So I think on an average, all the US cities are structured in the same way, and I think it same goes with any city in the world, I would say. But yeah, I think overall, I really like the places I lived. Yeah, I love Atlanta. I love Boston. So,
How's working over there? How is it for the working professionals?
it's pretty fine. I think Atlanta has much more traditional employment there, whereas Boston has much more innovative and much more startup culture compared to, like, if I compare just to those two cities.
Yeah,
But yeah, work culture, I think, compared to Canada is slightly different because there people, I think, is work centric. Here, there's some balance, I would say. Like
right.
at
Yeah,
least
it's like
within,
work. They
yeah,
do promote work-life balance over here more. Like I feel like
yeah,
because even like the companies that I used to work with and whatever like the company I work with right now,
yeah,
very flexible
correct.
with like everything. They actually do promote you. I wouldn't say they promote you to like relax and work, but I would say they as much as they know. I think the companies now know that as much as you are refreshed, as long as you're good in the outside working hours,
Hmm.
as long as you're comfortable, fresh, like your personal
Yeah,
life, as long as you're happy, then that's gonna help them in their company,
yeah,
and then you can perform better on the working hours if you're doing fine on the other hours. So
correct.
I think they're promoting now where they're flexible with your scheduling, and they're
Yeah,
flexible with like whatever you want to do in like like it's much more flexible, I
yep,
would say, right? in
yeah.
in in
Yeah, I
that
would
case.
agree. So yeah, like I said, on an average, in US, like a lot of companies and people are more work centric.
Yeah,
But fortunately, the companies that I have worked with are very flexible.
yeah,
Like you can see, I'm in Canada working remote for my
yeah,
company, right? So that's very flexible.
yeah.
um, so yeah, there's, like I said,
This
there's
person.
companies who are very flexible, but then there's also companies who are much more, focused on getting your hours in. Yeah.
What do you remember about your student life in US?
Living in a hall and still paying $500.
So explain to me, please.
Yeah, so the housing is very expensive compared to Toronto. Like you cannot, if you are able to spend $1,000 a month, US dollars, you will be probably be able to stay in a room just by yourself.
Yeah,
But on an average, if you are in um, Northeast or California or all such states, it's going to be very expensive. So you have to share your apartment with
yeah.
other people.
It's just like a normal international student
Yeah,
life. You come here, save money, study. in
right.
terms in terms for you to save money, you gotta share your room with like 35 more people.
Yeah,
It's the same thing. Everybody's been there, all
yeah,
everybody's been there, and then that's how it is.
yeah,
Do you remember anything cool, anything fun in your student life? Like how was your life overall? I know there's struggles,
yeah,
but then also you come from India, so you're outside in a different country,
absolutely.
and in India, how it is still is, you kind of you have your house, you have a family house, and you grow up there, and you always live there. So you live with your family, you live with your parents. We don't have concept of getting 18, 19, and then moving out and building our life. We
Yeah,
still always live with our family and stuff.
yeah, it's very
um,
uncommon.
it's
Yeah,
very uncommon, yeah. So but then for one to get student visa or whatever, and then going to US from India, so
hmm.
different country, everything is different, you're like
Yeah,
a free bird. It's not that you're not free in your home,
yeah,
but of course away from your family, away from everything, you just it's a free country, it's an open. So how did you manage
yeah.
that freedom of young freedom, and enjoying, at the same time you also know that it's masters, expensive,
Expensive.
new country, you trying to learn. I mean, we already know how the US is, but like you actually there now, you're living a day-to-day life where you
Yes.
have to manage things which you probably did not ever manage in your previous lives.
Yeah.
So how was that in the beginning?
It
Is
was,
usually it's you I'm so sorry I asked, because it's usually very cool to ask somebody how their very first months, or how their initial time was in
yeah.
a new country like this. It's very fun to it's not fun, but it's because I relate, so I
Right.
that's how
Yeah.
I can that's how it's fun for me.
So yeah, moving was very exciting, right? Because you're going to a new country, you're going to get started on your dreams and your goals in life, but also comes with challenges, like basic challenges, like you need to know cooking. You cannot eat outside and spend like $30-$50 every day,
Yeah,
right? So that was a big one. I had never cooked in my life ever, so I had to learn everything. Um, Almost exploded a cooker. And
That's a
yeah,
funny.
yeah, that had happened in like very first couple of weeks when I moved to US.
Yeah,
Um,
I almost accidentally put a steel plate in a microwave. I had no idea that you cannot do that. So yeah,
exactly. Um, yeah, looking for an apartment to move, so that is also challenging if you don't have any friends or if you don't have any connections in the city you're moving in. It's very challenging to find a place to live. It's expensive. You don't know if the area is going to be safe where you're moving. So all those things was very initially was very challenging, but then obviously once you get there, once you get to know people, there's there's like everyone comes together to help you in one way or the other. Like even if there's a small thing, even if you don't know where to go and get bread if you need an emergency, there's going to be someone who knows, and he's going to or she's going to or they are going to help you out.
yeah. I
So
just talked about this in my last episode too.
mhm.
So what I figured, what was a bigger problem for me was up until like last year,
Yeah.
I've had this big problem. Pretty much my whole, I wouldn't say my whole, like yeah, pretty much my whole life, where I was always really really shy. Not just shy, I was shy and scared
Mhm.
of approaching people. For Because I would always, because in my head I was always like very very low self confident kind of guy, and
Mhm.
I think at some point till today I do think that like I don't know anything about anything. So like if I ask somebody something, it was always a thing in my head where I was like, okay, he knows a lot. Like I don't know nothing. I was very shy, very
Yeah.
shy, and I was very afraid. It wasn't just me being shy. I think I was really afraid. I was afraid of not just approaching. I was afraid of asking question. I was afraid of asking that silly question
Yeah.
of like, hey, where do you go to buy bread over here? And I was like, I was so I would think so much in my head, and I would think it over and over, but I would just end up not asking the question because I would have thought it so much.
Yeah.
And that still goes for till today. But I think I'm learning now where I don't mind asking the silly questions,
Yeah.
and I'm still training myself for it. But it's a challenge. It's tough. It's tough to
Definitely.
go and ask. But what I figured is here it's if you're at the right place, this is a really really good place where
Yeah.
um, I don't think any questions are silly like that. Depending on, of course, you can always find people who are gonna put you down, but most of the time, in general, I feel like there will be people who would be willing to help you.
Yes.
Most people are like that. Most
Yeah.
people are, if you ask them for anything, they're not gonna shy away for the answer.
No.
They won't treat you as you are lower or you don't. How come you don't know this? Like they're not gonna do that to you.
Yeah.
So you're very very comfortable approaching people, and I
Yes.
guess I started getting comfortable more that way because I started asking more questions.
Correct.
But before that breakthrough happened, for the longest time, I was not asking any questions to
Yeah.
anybody. So I was always like in my head I was always afraid, and but it's not. Here you are at a good place, you should be, that's no problem. Like you should not shy away if you come as a student. um if you come as a new worker, I guess, to US, Canada,
Any
overall
country.
any country, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. um Not depending on the country.
That is true.
So
Keyword.
but what I know about Canada and US, because I know people and I speak with people, so
Yeah.
I guess say my opinion on that. But I know that in these countries it's comfortable, you are okay to ask questions,
Yes.
silly questions, to most people.
Nobody's going to judge you. Yeah.
Nobody judges you, very less people judges you. And that way you get the answer too, right? You want to
Correct.
know, you want to
Yeah.
you're when you come from countries like India. Obviously it's like India is huge now, and it's like it's some, if you depend, but I'm not speaking only for Indians, I'm speaking for any international student that comes from any countries to North America. Don't shy away, like don't worry about it, just ask silly questions. If somebody puts you down, don't be afraid, go
Yeah.
to the next person,
Yeah.
ask them,
Don't
it's
worry
okay,
about it.
no
Yeah.
problem. They're gonna help you out, and it's only for yourself too. You're gonna grow. You have to understand that it's not your fault. And I guess that's what I was telling myself, and that's how I told myself when I learned. It's not your fault. You can always you only come from that place where you have limited knowledge. You don't know much about how things works in North America, and it's just a culture difference.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. It's either a culture difference or it's like societal difference. But like, don't worry about it. Don't shy that you don't fit in. Just
Correct.
ask questions. Just be
Yeah.
nice about it. Don't be an ass. Ask questions. Be nice about it and be polite, and you'll be fine.
Yes.
There's gonna be no problems.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who are always going to help you out, you know.
Yeah.
Um, you'll obviously see a lot of content online where you see that, okay, this country has like so many bad things going on, but don't believe everything. I mean, you come here, you experience, and then you'll find out that people are really nice,
Yeah.
like just on an average, you know. Like if you go anywhere, if I go to like Walmart and if I want to ask someone about something, they're going to help me out, and if they don't, someone else will. So
Yeah,
yeah.
see, I didn't know about, like,
Yeah.
I would not ask if I go to Walmart. I'm not gonna be. I wouldn't ask. Even till date, like, I'm still very minorly hesitant to just go and ask. I don't even know why. It's like, it's Walmart, and I'm gonna be asking somebody a question who's doing his job probably,
Right.
and I'm still shy.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just my nature. But you can ask. It's
Yes,
no problem. You can
absolutely.
always
Yeah.
be comfortable with it.
And
There's no issues.
yeah, adding on to that, I think that was very helpful for me because when I went to US, I didn't know anyone. I mean, I knew like a few people, maybe like I don't know, four people I knew, but not all were in the same city. So it was really helpful for me to make new friends, get to understand how things work, secure on-campus jobs, which is very difficult, like I said earlier. And then just deal with doing job applications, finding internships, making sure you have your assignments on track, working out, for example, you want to make sure that it's on track and stuff. There was snow like half of the year, right? Boston is very cold, and India, like the city where I come from, there's no snow. So yeah, you have to manage all those changes, and there's people who help you out figuring out stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask, you just said your work and your studies, right?
Yeah.
So when you come to the States,
Hmm.
as a student and securing an on-campus job,
Hmm.
how did that work for you? So what does can one do to, because you said there's already a lot of competition.
Yes.
Uh,
It completely depends on what university you are in. There's some universities, like I think in southern states, there's a lot of universities where it's comparatively easier to get an on-campus job because there's just so many jobs in those cities. But the university and the city that I was in, Boston, there's not many. There are a few, but not as many as international students are there. If there's 5,000 international students, there's probably 500 jobs. So there's 10 people fighting for one job, you know.
yeah. So how did you pull it off?
Yeah, so there were some jobs that open every semester, which are like 400 positions in just one job. So the job that I did was an RSO Proctor, Residential Security Officer. And what we used to do is we used to sit in dorm front desk, making sure that the students who are going in and out have their IDs and everything is, in order, basically.
What's a dome? Can you explain to the viewers?
Yeah, so dorm is basically a hostel for they call it dorm in United States and I think in Canada. And then the students who live in those buildings or in those places are mostly university students. So we have to make sure that the whoever is entering the dorm must have a valid ID, must be from that dorm, and if they have guests, we make sure that they check the guests in. So yeah, I used to work as a residential security officer. Um, yeah,
How was that job?
job was pretty good actually. I used to
That's
work night shifts, and I used because the good thing about night shift is there's not a lot of traffic, not a lot of
okay.
students coming and going.
Okay.
You can watch movies because you have to be awake, right? And it was
Right.
allowed to. You can watch movies as
Oh,
long as you are awake and as long as you make sure that if there's anyone you attend,
yeah.
you can watch movies on your laptop while you're sitting on your desk. So yeah, that's what I
As
used to
long
do.
as your job is taken care of, you're fine.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One of my friends who used to work with me in my previous job,
Hmm.
he also was working in something like what you used to do.
Yeah.
He was a resident, and he told me a really cool story of how, it was his last day. Okay, and then it was his last day. He gave his notice, and he was gonna officially leave. So today is his last day, and then he goes, like, on his last day, when this was like, he was like a notorious friend, right? He was already a little notorious. And I think he had a fight or something with the management or some sort.
Okay.
But what the story he told me was, on his last day of working there, the students, so who live in the dome,
Yeah.
they kind of arrange like a party or something in one of the rooms. And it's okay to have that, but then you cannot go crazy on it. You cannot
Yeah.
like,
Make
but of
noise
course
and
it's students, and like things are gonna sometimes happen. Things are gonna go crazy.
yeah.
People are gonna drink, and things are gonna happen at times.
Right.
And this guy's job was to make sure that that doesn't happen, or if that happens, his job was to make sure that the proper steps are taken. So maybe cops are called or
Yeah.
management is called, then you have to make sure you do all that,
Correct.
right? But it was his last day, so he decided to join that party. So this guy, it's his last day. He goes, he joins those friends, because he at night, um, his shift was supposed to end. So his shift ends. He goes to join the party of these guys. Stays there for the entire night. Goes crazy with all the boys and
Yeah.
everything. And then next morning he just leaves, and then he leaves his job and everything. So he enjoyed. But I don't know what happened afterwards. It was just a really cool story to hear. Like it
Okay.
was, yeah, it was very funny.
Nice.
But yeah, it was good. The job was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I used to work night shifts, like I said, but yeah, sometimes you were sleepy at night,
Yeah,
So if you are trying, like, dozing off while you're on your shift, you'll actually get a call from management. Can you please open the door? Somebody might be there. So they used to make us walk, to the door.
so they were watching you.
Yeah, there's cameras 24/7. They are watching you. If they find someone who is sleeping, they'll just ask you to do some random stuff like, go, can you
Oh,
go make sure that let's say the water cooler is not leaking or the door is properly closed, just so that you wake up, you get like a few steps and you
yeah,
get some activity in your body. So they won't tell you that don't sleep or you're fired or something. They'll just ask you to do something so that you move around, or they'll just ask you to take like a 10-minute break
yeah,
and stuff like that. But fortunately, I didn't have to do that for like a long time. I did that for like 4 or something months. And then I was able to find like a teaching assistant job.
right.
Yeah, I used to teach math for advanced mathematics to master students, masters and bachelor students.
So you can get all those kind of jobs too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They are very few, and there's like only one or two positions each semester, which is hard to get because like there's hundreds of people applying.
yeah.
But yeah, I was fortunately able to get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you go? What made you come to US for further studies? Why not India? Because
So
right now, I'm sorry, I asked because I know before it wasn't, maybe it wasn't the case, but maybe it was the case before. But now it's huge. India is, it's growing, right? There's
oh,
more people are
definitely.
leaving from here to go to India.
Yeah.
There's more opportunities, more money, everything.
Yes.
Um, so what made you go to US?
Right. So my mom has stayed in US. She has studied there from 2007 to 2010. I was in seventh grade when she went to US, and then she just found that the culture, the education, and just the living and everything is much different, and it's much more um, uh, friendly to people who want to grow and advance in their career and stuff. So that
Okay,
was one of the motivation for me to study abroad. And since my mom was in Boston, actually, she actually lived and studied here in Boston, there in Boston, sorry. That's why I decided to choose that city because of like a lot of good universities, good programs, and all that. And in 2014, I just visited for like to US for a month to explore, different universities and cities and just the lifestyle and everything.
right.
So that's when I decided that okay, once I graduate my bachelor's,
Yeah.
I'll pursue my master's.
What did you have to do to prepare to come to US?
It was a long time ago. I gave my GRE.
When was this?
It was in 2016, so
Okay, so almost
almost 2017, so almost 8 years.
8 years ago.
Yeah, 7, 8
So,
years ago.
what did you have to do at that time?
Right. Making sure that you have good grades in your bachelor's was important, but apart from that, the other things that were important was to make sure you have good score in your GRE exam, which is just tests your English and math and all that. Um, your TOEFL, which is comparative to IELTS that we give here, your English proficiency exam, um, and then you should have like letter of recommendations from your university professors or any people you've worked with or worked under in your previous experience or education while in India or other country. So yeah, all that was important. And make so the most important thing was to make sure that you meet all the deadlines of application, because it is very important, because if you miss that,
Yeah.
uh, you won't have your paperwork, your application fees will be gone. You'll have to wait another 6 months to apply.
Yeah,
So
and you also have to be active on your own as well, because I figured when I was applying for Canada and when I was
yeah,
in India, it was a lot of times it was maybe like not a miscommunication, but sometimes they have a different email in the records, or like it would be a miscommunication where maybe sometimes they are trying to reach out to you,
yeah,
but then they don't get to reach out to you. So it's that not connecting in between. And here on your side, you constantly just waiting for
yes,
the thing to happen.
yeah,
So what I figured was, there's also one more thing that I would suggest is you be active. So like be active
correct,
on your own. If you know you have applied to certain universities, if you already know where you applied, because a lot of times in India there's agents that would apply on your behalf. So
yes,
you would go to like courses for English and all that, and they would help you or they would charge you, and they would apply on your behalf. But
yes,
you want to be active, because again, those agents, they're not just doing it for you,
they are doing that for them.
for them, and they probably also have a lot of people like you.
Yeah,
So it could be a human error. So you don't want to be the guy who's only relying on the agent, who's relying on the university. So like you make sure that you're active. Maybe you keep bothering your agent
yeah,
again and again, be like, hey, where's my application at?
yeah,
Or you can also just skip him, go and contact the university straight up, and ask them for updates. Like I said, like he said, again, it's usually people are responsive, and they would respond to you
yeah,
fast, if not fast, but they would respond to you.
definitely.
And try multiple ways of contacting. Now there's way more ways here. Websites and everything is really really open, very very friendly and stuff. And you can even just plain Google, just simple Google, be like, hey, this university, how can I contact? And
Yeah,
then you can probably find a lot of information. But make
absolutely.
sure you're active, not waiting on.
Yeah. So good point actually about the agents. I did all the application myself. I found out what all exams and what all deadlines I have to meet myself. It's not very challenging. I would recommend to do that. You'll save a lot on agent fees. Um, and then, yeah, you probably have more control over your application compared to waiting on your agent or consultancy who are doing that for you. Yeah, just one recommendation putting it out there,
Yeah.
because it wasn't, I know I had help from my mom because she had already been here and she knew the process, but it was also just not very complex to do it yourself if you wanted to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. When your mom came, and how was her experience different than yours? Because she came, and
Yeah,
then you came after 7 8 years after that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, 10 years almost,
10 years
yes.
after that,
Yeah.
was there anything that she told you? Obviously, she told you a lot of things. What was different when you noticed?
So when I got here, the
Yeah.
biggest change was how much expensive everything has gotten. But she was
Mm,
here, she was in US in 2007, and things were like really like cheap compared to what it was when I went there in 2017, 18.
yeah, I remember we used to be little tiny, and then we would just be like, I would just be excited for my aunt to come, and then she would like always buy gifts for us, and we'd be
Right.
like, I was just like, oh snap, she came from the USA, and then there's like she bought me a hoodie, and it would be so cool. I probably still have that hoodie with me, like
Yeah.
I know, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so things were very expensive when I got to US compared to when my mom was in US. So it was a shock for her because when she was there, she actually spent money on rent and all that, obviously. But when she found out that I have to pay so, like me, I have to pay this much in rent just to get like a spot in the living room of a house, it was crazy for her because she used to rent an entire room for like $250. And in $250, you won't even be able to get groceries in for a month.
Yeah,
So yeah, there was a huge difference there, which has obviously grown much more. Like it's things are going out of hand right now. It's expensive, but yeah, that was one of the biggest difference.
yeah. Would she ever want to come back then, like to like see US? Did she ever come back?
I mean, yeah, we did visit in 2014 or 2015. I think 2015, for a few weeks. But she don't want to move here, move to US or Canada, I think, because the weather is not as great as it is in
Yeah,
India. And the other
yeah,
thing is, um, we have our entire family, so they won't
yeah,
really enjoy here. They are more like meeting family members every other day kind of
Like,
people,
yeah, we're
which,
very, very social.
yeah,
We're very
which
social.
is impossible outside India. Here, I mean, you have to make appointments to meet other people, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, in India, you've always been. Were you born in Ahmedabad?
Yes,
Yeah, and
born in
you've always
Ahmedabad.
born and raised in Ahmedabad too, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Lived there for, I think, until 2017, which is 22 years.
22 years.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of you also had a bike and everything, and you used
Oh,
to,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. How do you miss that life?
Yeah, I did. I do miss that. Once I came to US, I was dependent on public transport, whereas in India, I used to have my own motorcycle and then my car and all that. I can just take wherever I want to go, right? But yeah, after a few years, once I was able to get a job, I was able to get my own car. So yeah, I mean, things change, but you have to, struggle. Yeah.
How did the independency work for you? So like, because you said you already had like things, facilities back home, and then there's always people taking care of. Like it goes for anybody. People
Right.
taking care of you. You have things that's already there, and you just everything is convenient and easy,
Yeah.
right? And then you become independent. So how was that?
Yep. Independence, as good as it sounds, comes with its own challenges, like taking care of your meals, taking care of your laundry, for example. Just anything that basically a student goes through if he or she or they are living by themselves, right? So yeah, it does come with like a lot of challenges, but I think it's important for everyone to face this so that they can grow in life. They can become more self-dependent instead of like putting stuff on other people's shoulder. So I think it's very important for each person to go through this.
Now I'm thinking. At this point, do you feel like um, the previous life, the life with no responsibilities, is better, or would you want to take on responsibilities and keep on learning and growing even if it's harder?
I think this is important. Having challenges in your life gives it meaning. Personally, that's what I think. um, I don't want to like stop having challenges in my life. Instead, I just want to be here, but also make sure that the challenges that I have, I go through them, I conquer them, and then I take on to new challenges which are much more difficult, so that I can use the experience that I had from my old uh, problems or challenges, which I can apply to the new ones and then evolve from there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a very common thing that people should go through so that they can evolve. That's
Yeah,
all. Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Now on a separate topic, I want to speak to you about your art side of things.
Art.
um, Music. So
Oh,
music, art.
sure.
He plays a really, really good violin. He's you. I think you have had a lot of hours in violin. The only thing I know about is about you and violin is you like I've seen you play violin really good. I don't know if you've taken any courses, any classes like that. So like do you like have you taken classes for violin?
Yeah, so I used to get trained for violin for like at least a year and a half, 2 years or something
Yeah,
when I was back home in Ahmedabad while I was doing my bachelor's. And then while being getting trained, getting coached for
yeah.
violin, I also gave some international music exams, which was accredited with London School of Music. So I do have all those certifications and all that. But it's been a while since I touched my violin. But yeah, I like playing violin.
How did you get into violin? So was it just because you were younger and then
I wanted, so yeah, one of the reason I wanted to learn uh, a musical instrument, but a lot of people do learn guitar and then other instruments which are fairly common. But I wanted to learn something which was not as common, and fortunately, I was able to get a really nice teacher
right?
who taught me really well. So I was fortunate for that.
Should people get into violin if they want to get into like if they're already into music and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think violin is a great instrument to learn. I think it gives you, I mean, honestly, it just gives you more perspective on how music works. I think it's something good to have. For me, it wasn't like profession; it was a hobby, and I still do it once in a while. But yeah, I think it's really fun. Yeah,
I'm gonna try and
it's
see if I can get a clip from him and I can put that in
oh
the
my
video,
God.
in any older clip or anything, just
I
so
do
we,
have
just
an
so
old
yeah, you
clip.
have it, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's perfect. I'm just gonna try and see if I can put that clip in,
yeah.
just so we know how good you are. Um, and then all those, like, my wife is really excited for you, for she
Oh
wants
my
to,
God.
she wants you to play the Game of Thrones tune. She's
I see.
she's getting into Game of Thrones now,
Oh,
so
that's nice. That's nice.
she's loving it.
Finally.
Finally, yeah, it's due. It's long due.
Yeah, lovely.
She likes it now, and she, of course, as a normal Game of Thrones fan, she wants to continue watching it.
Nice.
so so now I told her that you were really good at violin, and then she's like, oh yeah, that's different,
Let's
because
do it. Yeah.
yeah, we don't have a lot of violin players around, we don't know how it is. So yeah, why do you not want, like, do you want to continue violin with your daily routine at some point? Do you want to keep that in your routine?
So a lot of things changed when I moved here. When I moved, not here, like I moved out of country, I moved to US. Um, I started focusing more on obviously education, getting a job, and all just my
Life gets in the way.
life. Yeah, being independent. So
Yep.
yeah, and like I said, like initially when I started doing violin, it wasn't for my profession; it was a hobby. So it's still a hobby. It's just that it's less frequent than it was when I was in India.
Would you, do you think at some point you would want to start, like, putting start including that in your schedule at some point, just so, I'm thinking, do you think it would, being, I wouldn't say being an artist, but it's a different skill to have. A lot of
Yes.
people does not have skills and understanding how the lyrical, how the music work.
Hmm.
I play a little bit of piano, so like I kind of also know how that thing is. Do
Right.
you think at any point you would want to put that in your schedule so that it can help your other schedule? So whatever you do in your regular time,
Right.
do you think, like, you want to mindfully put that in your schedule at some point? Like, how do you see that part of your life for yourself? Or is it one of those things where you just want to have it on the side, and if you just like, if you just want to do it on the side so you can be fresh for your own?
So that's a very good question, actually. Um, since the very first thing we talked was the YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
And since I started like 2 months ago, and before that, I was thinking about starting the YouTube channel and the 3D printing and designing and all that stuff. So I found out that all the videos that we put have some sort of background music, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking instead of buying royalty for the music or licensing the music, I can just make something of my own. So yes, good question. I did think about it, like including that in my not daily, but at least weekly or bi-weekly routine. Once in a while, I get my violin out and then play some tunes, record some tunes, and then put it as a background music for my videos. So yeah, that is down the
That would be,
pipeline.
yeah, really cool to do your own videos and then put your own background music in that
Correct.
videos. Like, if you do it for business, amazing, but even if you don't do it for business, it's still fun. Like,
It's
you,
still fun, yeah.
that video, I would want to watch that video, just so that probably goes so much in that video, right? It's the
Yeah.
skill of the 3D printing, plus the skill of YouTubing, like, editing and everything, and then the skill of putting background. So, like, making a little nice little video, putting everything together, it will be really cool to watch.
Yeah.
I'll be excited for it, I think.
We'll definitely include some uh, my own recorded music on my violin for like a background music of one of my videos. It would be nice because there's challenges. I'm sure you know that if you use any audio or music on YouTube, if it's owned by someone else or made by someone else, you're gonna have copyrights on your YouTube channel. So you have to make
Yeah.
sure that the video or audio, sorry, the audio that you use is licensed or it doesn't have all these copyright issues.
Yeah. Do you plan on putting all that, or is it just a long time thing for now?
I think yeah, probably like in next month or couple months, I would definitely include some of my own music. Yeah, it's
Some
it's
of your, so some of your own composed music, yeah, you
uh,
mean?
so I think it doesn't matter. I can also make my own compositions or just record my own tunes which are made by other people. But as long as they are recorded by you,
Yeah.
you should be fine on YouTube.
As long as it's different tune, but as long as it's yours, then it should be okay. It's not.
Yes, if it's recorded
Uh,
by me, even if it's a song that is made by someone else, but I recorded it myself, I created the audio for
Tune.
that music
Yeah.
myself, I think it's fine. There's no copyright issues on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered a lot of topics, and there's still couple of topics that I want to touch now. This is
Sure.
just little topics. So
Yeah.
first is, I know you already moved to a different country and
Yeah.
everything. In the past few years, you also got married. So how's like the marriage life and everything working for you? Because life is busy as it is,
Yes.
right? And of course, like once you're living alone and getting married, like completely different life
Hmm.
in its own. But you also want to carry the same life that you were living in the past. Of course,
Yes.
you want to change some things here and there. Um, but how's that working for you? Do you think marriage has how has that helped you in
Hmm.
your growth and in like an individual's growth, you think?
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's been very helpful since I am living now with my wife. Personally, also mentally,
Right.
emotionally, there's like a lot of things, emotions and sentiments and everything that helps you
Right.
when you have a partner.
How is it my question is regarding the path from,
Oh yeah.
because we're not really experienced in marriage, so we don't know nothing about
No.
marriage yet. But how's the transition? How
Yeah.
did you how is that transition working for you, or how did it work for you right now, coping up everything in your daily life, right? So like
Yes.
marriage life, personal life, your work life, plus you have parents and everything back home.
Yeah.
You have wife's parents and everything, in-laws back
Yeah.
home, right? So managing all we live different lives,
Right.
managing everything, plus at the same time you're also doing something good for yourself, which is 3D printing and
Hmm.
all those creative
Right.
things, right? So does that give you, and like how is that transition working for you? Do you think it's good, it's helping you out, you're still in the learning terms, or you think it's helpful of having somebody in your life, and it helps you into everything else?
Yeah, I think it has been like a transition from just living by yourself and focusing on your own things to living with a partner and also focusing on things that are not only important to you but also important to your partner and
Yeah.
their family and everything. So I think it has been actually really good, keeps me busy, also makes me procrastinate a lot less compared to what I used to do when I was in college or living by myself. um, it is also helpful in a way because, like, let's say if I'm not feeling well today, I don't want to cook or I don't want to do anything, don't want to clean, you have another person who is very helpful right beside you, who is going to take care of you, and take care of the stuff. And it goes on the other side as well, like I do the same for my partner. So yes, there has been a transition, but a good transition,
Yeah.
which I'm very happy about.
It's also knowing that you're gonna always have somebody by your side.
Yes.
With It's also knowing that you can open up until whatever like extent you want to
Correct.
open up with them, so the other person can know the reality. You can start, like, I think in the beginning it's all about like fixing issues, in not issues per se, but let's say two people live together in one room. There's always going to be differences, there's always going to be, at least in the
Adjustments.
adjustments, right? So
Yeah.
the adjustment period is must, I feel like.
Yes.
If you live with the partner, if you have the right partner and everything, how you know is by overcoming the adjustment. So how you overcome the adjustments, it's not the reaction to the adjustments. So if me and my wife are like living anything we have differences on, it's not that the difference is the problem. What I feel like is how you both overcome the differences.
Hmm.
So what I figured was, it used to be me versus you. If there's a problem, the problem would be on the side, and it would be me versus you. But now I think I'm getting in habits of, it's you, me, both, and then problem is on the other side.
Right.
So this is the
Teamwork.
problem, but I want to work with you. Let's
Right.
work together, even if it's differences of opinions,
Yep.
even if it's differences of thinking thoughts. But I want to work with you and to fix this problem.
Yes.
Don't fight with me. Like it's okay to have anger. It's okay to have all the emotions, but I also want, like, in my mind, I know that there's no. I think this is something what I heard from Jordan Peterson say
Yeah.
in one of the videos is, why would you want to argue with your wife, and why would you want to make her feel defeated? Like, you don't want to argue with her and and show that you're winning the argument all the time because
Right.
it's your wife. What good is a defeated woman living with you gonna do to you? There's no help.
No,
you
yeah.
you don't want your, like, you don't want, why would you want to win an argument with your wife and then make her feel lose and defeated and she's sad? Like, that doesn't help with the problem. That's
Nah.
not helping. So one has to stop, think that that's not the problem. Let's figure out the problem in your head, and you gotta calm, I think, the situation down.
Yeah.
And you gotta say, okay, no, let's just both of us work on this problem, define the problem, and then let's try
Yep.
and fix it. Obviously it's going to be a
Yeah.
work in progress, but
Yeah, I think, yeah, the adjustment is definitely, I mean, each and every person has to go through it. It might
yeah,
be 6 months, it might be
yeah,
1 year, but it's going to be some time, right?
yeah,
And eventually, like you said, that the problem is on the other side, and you both are on one side, and you both take care of the problem together with
yeah.
one mind instead of fighting with each other, and problem just stays wherever it is. So yeah, I think it's, yeah, it's definitely, and I think me and her are past that now. So we are on the same side now.
Nice. See, there you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, same with
Yeah.
us.
It took some
Now,
time, but yeah, we are there now.
there you go. That's
Yeah.
how you know, right? It's about how you both overcome a problem together. It's
Yes.
about that.
Yep.
And even if it's like, even if you have differences, fights, whatever, you wanna be sitting after, like after math would be to you both sitting calm and then thinking through and then talking about it,
Exactly. Yeah, I
right?
agree. And it's
And
a win-win for both,
yeah,
instead of lose-lose for both, which is the worst case that can happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So now I'm gonna be wrapping this up really quickly, but I
Sure.
have one more thing I wanted to ask. I know one more thing that I've noticed in the past is you being very disciplined in your workouts, which you used to do before.
It's
Now I
been
don't know. It's been a
It's
minute.
been, I think, yeah, it's been a few weeks, not
Okay.
too long. Yeah,
Oh,
but yeah, because of the injury.
all right. Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, it's been
So
going.
I thought you were working out back home and then that's it. You never worked out
Oh
after
no,
that.
I continued while I was in US. I continued while I moved here.
How did you work that out? Was it in the universities you would go to
Yeah,
the
I
gym and
used to go to the gym in the university.
5 days a
Yes,
week, 7 days a week,
five.
5 days?
Yes.
Ah, so how's the schedule right now? Like before
So
the week?
right now, I actually go to the gym around 6:30 in the morning, even like
Oh,
today. Like not today, because I think since 3 weeks I have been off of the workout.
yeah.
But yeah, I go around 6:30, come back around 7:30, 7:45, and then carry on with my work after around 8:39.
Yeah, we'll see. I was gonna finish this topic because I thought you worked out before and then you stopped working out. But now I'm more curious.
Sure.
When you um when you start working out or
Yes.
when you go to the gym, how's your routine like? What do you do? Is it always 45 minutes an hour or how do you?
So I try, since back home in
Yeah,
India, I used to go in the afternoon
yeah.
or early, not early, but like right before noon, so around like 10:30, depending on my classes and all that schedule. So it was very easy for me because I was able to get like enough breakfast in. I was able to wake up and just get my stretches in and all that. But since now I go so early in the morning, I try
It's
to, yeah,
fasted, right?
yeah. So I don't eat before I work out because I
Oh,
won't be able to work out. Then I'll have to wake up at like 4 in the morning to eat and then work out.
yeah. But 4 in the morning you wake up and you eat, you're not gonna go to workout.
Yeah,
You're just
and
gonna go
in
back to
this cold.
this cold, this dark. You're just gonna
Yeah,
go back to sleep.
right. So yeah, that's why my workouts are slightly shorter compared to previously, which was around 1.5 hours. But these workout are not to like gain crazy muscles. It's just for fitness, to make
Right.
sure that I'm active, because since I'm working from home, I don't get enough activity in the entire day, right?
Yeah.
So the workout is very important for me to make sure that I have my blood circulation and my metabolism up.
So you don't focus on muscle growth. I mean, you don't focus on it. That's not your goal. Of course, you do weights,
Yes,
but that's not
yes.
your goal right now.
Yeah,
So do you
staying in shape, and then making sure that you are
fit
fit
overall?
fit overall.
How many minutes do you give then,
I give around 45 to 50 minutes, and then
excluding the travel time?
uh, yes, travel is like 10 minutes from
Okay,
here
that
to
can work.
gym. Yeah,
Okay,
it's not very far, it's very close from
okay.
here. Yeah, I give 50 minutes to work out and then 10 minutes for stretching and stuff. So at the most, I spend 1 hour at the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stretch for a little bit and then work out. And you said you still go 5 days a week right now?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
5 days.
So how does your workout day look like? You said you do a little bit of cardio and a little bit of
Stretching.
stretching. That's like
Yes,
15-20 minutes.
yes. And
And then
then,
what do you do? Do you take, is it push pull, and then legs? Is it, yeah, push pull legs, or do you do one muscle per day, or two? How
yeah,
does it work?
I do two muscles a day. Like I
Okay.
take uh, back and biceps, then I do
Chest and
chest and triceps,
triceps.
and
Yeah.
then I do legs,
Yeah.
and then legs and shoulders, and then
Yeah. Core,
yeah, and then
abs.
core.
Yeah.
And then one of the days I just do like body weight exercises, like push-ups and stuff like that. Anything push-ups, squats, or all the stretchings, different types, skipping, and all that.
Yeah.
So all the exercise that just requires your body weight, basically.
That's one
So
day. So like that's one of the days in the
one of
week,
the days. So yeah,
right?
like 4 or 5 different types of workouts every week,
Yeah.
just to make sure that you hit all the body parts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I said, my goal is not to gain like build huge muscles.
Yeah.
My goal is to make sure that I'm fit enough to lift anything if I want to just
Yeah.
move around stuff in
Fresh
my
for the
house.
day and then fresh for the next day as well. So like
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
just the consistency and just
Yep.
feeling fresh overall, and then
Correct.
feeling strong. I feel like what I've noticed is when I work out and when I use, like when I'm on continuation of workout, I feel my body kind of feels light. It's light. Like,
Yes.
so my movement throughout the day, it's light. Like that's what I
Correct.
drastically noticed.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm sitting, I'm kind of slouched. I'm a little bit active right now, but like if I were to like work out, and if I was in middle of like that path where I'm working out,
Hmm.
um, I feel like I'm really light all
Yeah.
day. I move fast. If I have to get up, like little things, just getting out from the car and
Correct.
then like lifting groceries, like everything, it just feels a little more lighter, a little more faster. I
Yeah.
think this is just my opinion, of course. And then keeps that way, it keeps me more active throughout the day. So
Yes.
like I think if I'm not active at all, I would want to sit down and I would want to, like, if I have to just go and get up and get water, like it's a little bit harder for me if I'm not working out at all, rather
Yeah.
than like if I'm working out and if I'm fresh, my body's fresh and healthy, like if I'm feeling good, and if my muscles and everything are like in order, not muscular but fit,
Yeah.
then I just feel healthy, fresh, it's fast.
I
It's not just fresh but the fast, like my movement throughout the day is fast, and I'm active with the
yeah.
activities.
I
Yeah.
think it has very much to do with your digestion. If you work out,
Yeah.
you have really good digestion and you have more energy throughout the day. I
Yeah.
think that is very important, and that happens to me a lot. If I am skipping a few days,
Yeah.
skipping 1 or 2 days is fine, but if I'm skipping like a week or 2 weeks,
Yeah.
after a few days, my body is going to be like quickly tired compared to when I work out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just because your digestion is slightly slower,
Yeah.
you're not um, just not active enough. So yeah, I think that happens. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. I guess we are on time. I mean, we didn't have a time limit, but we pretty much covered all the topic. Is there anything that you think of that we might have missed, topic wise?
I think we covered anything, but yeah, if there's
Okay.
like if there's things that you think that we should cover,
Yeah, yeah.
we'll see
So
each
we'll
other
see.
again.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have more conversations to see what's happening, and maybe we can dive deeper into Me's journey.
Yes.
For now, I usually ask this to everybody. Um, Throughout the journey, you've been to India and then you came to US,
Yeah.
Canada, and within all these things so far. Obviously, there's more to go. What is one or two things that you might have learned, um, or that you might have noticed in your life, that you would want to tell to our viewers, so maybe they can, like, save their time, or maybe they learn a thing or two. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Um, so there's a lot of people who crave, I mean, personally, it's just my experience, right? There's a lot of people who crave for like life outside India in other countries like Australia, United States, Canada, UK. um, I think personally it's not as easy as people think. I mean, there's a lot of struggle. The smiles on our face weren't there at a lot of times, which they are right now. But yeah, you will have to struggle a lot. You will have to be ready to, you know, sleep without eating. I mean, I'm just exaggerating, but yeah, there's gonna be days where you are just too tired. You still have like things to do, and you just won't get time to do stuff. So there's like a lot of struggle. It's not as easy. People earn in dollars here, but you also spend in dollars. So yeah, there's like so many things that friends and family in India thinks that it's easy, but it's not. You have to come here and see how hard it is to make yourself in the position that you are, that we are right now. I mean, we are still struggling. It's not over, right?
Yeah,
It's still
it's a
going on.
continued
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very important to make sure that you are ready to face all these challenges and face the challenges, but don't break down. Keep going. You will go through. Everyone does.
Once you start, there's gonna be a light at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's gonna, I mean, if you don't know the path, if it's covered with like potholes and it's gonna, and leaves and stuff, you don't know if there's a road underneath there. Just start walking, you'll find out. And if
Yeah.
you fall down, get up and keep walking.
There you go. Meet
Yeah.
Trivedi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really nice.
Same. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah.